Hello kind people of YouTube and welcome back to another video. I promised I would make another one yesterday and then never got around to it. So these are the topics that would have been included in the video yesterday. Just a tiny bit late, just a couple hours late. Let's take a look. We have some stories mostly about individual projects and companies today. So let's jump into it, and first up, Cardano is getting closer to their major Shelley upgrade. So let's take a look at what's going on there. Cardano, the fully open source, decentralized public blockchain and cryptocurrency project, is currently moving closer and closer towards its next major update, the Shelley project. Shelley is among the many projects carried out by the Cardano team. Its main aim is to prove beyond all doubt that, like all good blockchains, Cardano will become fully decentralized and autonomous. The Shelley project comes after the Byron phase, which was the bootstrap era. The next phase, expected to bring unprecedented security and dependability to blockchain systems, is the Gokuen phase. Keep in mind here, this is very much marketing talk here. They're pretty much repeating Cardano's talking points here. While I'm certain that these are good upgrades that will bring a lot of new features, new security, new scalability to Cardano, we have very little reason to believe that they will bring anything that is completely unprecedented in the crypto space. But let's continue. The Shelley project comprises of three major functions: incentives, which provide stakeholders with monetary incentives which ensure the system runs undisrupted; delegation, which allows stakeholders to delegate their right and obligation to sign blocks to a third party; and networking. This provides network systems to support decentralization. Charles Hoskinson, founder of Cardano and CEO of Input Output Hong Kong, recently posted on his Twitter handle that he was about to depart to Berlin in order to participate in an internal workshop. His tweet clearly stated that they had 50 pages of math to go through in order to finalize the design of Cardano's delegation mechanics. According to reports, the finalization of the delegation mechanics is one of the major hurdles to clear before the general release of Shelley. Keep in mind, as this article just pointed out, delegation is one of the three main aspects of Shelley. So they're probably meeting right now, because it is currently afternoon in Germany. They're probably meeting right now somewhere in Berlin, getting delegation running, making sure that these 50 pages of maths are all fine. I believe Shelley is still set for Q1 of 2019, but I don't think we have any exact dates there. So it looks like this is gearing up. If they're having in-person meetings to go through all the math, that sounds like at least that part of Shelley is pretty far in its development. I've said it before, while I don't talk about Cardano and ADA all that much on this channel, I do like to see just how much development and research is going on with that system. The people behind Cardano are really making sure that there is consistent progress happening, that their roadmap is being followed, and to my knowledge, the delays haven't been nearly as bad as for some other cryptocurrency projects. So that is one of the reasons why Cardano is absolutely a project to watch at this point. Now let's go for something a lot less certain. And here we have another article where statements might be taken out of context and exaggerated a bit, but you'll see why when we actually read this. Russia plans to ditch US dollar for Bitcoin, says university professor. A Russian university lecturer with ties to the government says the Kremlin will soon begin investing massively in Bitcoin as a way of avoiding new US sanctions, a move that could happen in a matter of weeks. But did he actually? We will see in a moment that is not quite what he said. Speaking exclusively to Mickey, Vladislav Ginko of the Russian Presidential Academy of National Economy and Public Administration believes new US sanctions will push the Kremlin into diversifying its cash reserves into Bitcoin. Ginko, who has ties with the government going back more than 20 years, says the move will happen in a matter of weeks. Ginko has in recent times appeared on various Russian media platforms clamoring for the adoption of Bitcoin as a haven asset. Commenting on the issue, Ginko said, and this is his actual quote, US sanctions may be mitigated only through Bitcoin use. Because of US sanctions, Russia's elite is forced to dump US assets in US dollars and invest hugely into Bitcoins. The central bank of Russia sits on $466 billion of reserves and has to diversify in case there are limited opportunities to do it in the future. Are you noticing what I'm noticing here? He isn't saying that the Russian government is about to do this. He is putting this forward as what he thinks should happen. At least that is my reading of this comment. He's giving his personal opinion on how Russia should deal with this situation. Not saying that this is how Russia will deal with it. Not saying that he has some insider knowledge about this being about to happen. Let's continue reading here because the article does continue a bit. Along with China, Iran and Venezuela, Russia is exploring ways to reduce its US dollar dependence. Back in November 2018, Russian President Vladimir Putin declared that in the wake of new sanctions, the country had no choice but to cut down on its use of the dollar in international trade. At the time, Putin said, "We have no goal of moving away from the dollar, it's the dollar that's moving away from us. Those making such decisions are not shooting themselves in the foot, but somewhere more delicate, further up the body." Showing once again that he can never not be, I can't think of the word. He seems to have this inability to ever say anything in a tasteful manner, and this is yet another example. According to Ginkgo, the Kremlin will, beginning in February 2018, I assume they mean 2019, look for ways to diversify its reserves. Ginkgo has in recent times appeared on various Russian media platforms clamoring for the adoption of Bitcoin as a haven asset. If the Russian government and the elite class invest massively in Bitcoin, and keep in mind in Russia the government and the elite class are essentially the same thing, everything is closely tied together there, the price of the asset could experience a sudden upward surge. Such a situation occurred in 2018 when wealthy Chinese citizens reportedly moved money into Bitcoin in the wake of an accelerated currency devaluation by Beijing. Meanwhile, the Kremlin has been stocking up on non-digital gold as a shield against economic sanctions. Reports indicate the government is selling US government debt in exchange for the precious metal. By August of 2018, Russia had already tripled its gold reserves as it gears up for renewed economic tussles with the US. Such is the extent of Russia's gold gobbling that global gold purchasing figures reached a 3-year high in November of 2018. The Kremlin is also pursuing closer economic ties with China to create a new payment system independent of the dollar. So we have a lot of individual facts that are pointing towards something being tied together in a way that isn't quite true, at least from what I can see here. And once again, I am basing this on these statements. I assume these statements were originally made in Russian and then translated, and I also don't have the full context for these statements. But first up, they're using his association with the Russian government as an air of legitimacy around him. Keep in mind, Russia makes sure to stay in close contact with its academics. If you are a major academic in Russia, you are expected to tout the government line, to help the government in any way you can, to assist with your research. You are essentially considered very closely related to the government. So most Russian academics do have these close ties to the government. That is nothing all that special, though as it says here, he is part of the Russian Presidential Academy of National Economy and Public Administration, but I'm not sure how big that association is and how many members it has. But like just the fact that he has government ties going back 20 years, that is pretty standard in Russian academia. I know some academics who are either Russian or who have worked at Russian universities for a while. They all say the same thing, that academia in Russia is pretty much, not officially, but unofficially considered an extension of the government. Academia is used to push government narratives, and major academics are closely tied to the Russian government. So this is not all that extraordinary. And as to his actual statements, it is true that Russia is trying to move away from America for some pretty good, compelling reasons. And it is also true that they're looking to diversify their assets. What we can't say without a doubt at this point is that they're moving to Bitcoin for that. Now, I could see that happening. I could absolutely see that happening. But the way I'm seeing this situation, the way I'm looking at this based on this article and everything else I've read about this, is that Ginkgo was here not telling us what the government plans to do, but instead very much giving his own personal advice of what should happen here. Here may be mitigated only through Bitcoin use. That is his opinion of what would be a good option here. And talking about here how they're forced to dump assets and invest into Bitcoin. That is very much his reading of the situation and not him providing the government line here. This is his opinion. This is what he thinks the Russian government should do. And until we get any kind of official statement from the Russian government or see price movements and movements on the blockchain that appear to be the Russian government, I'm going to take this with just a pinch of salt. Because It is absolutely possible that Russia will do this, but based on these statements by this one person, I don't think it's fair to name a headline, Russia plans to ditch US dollars for Bitcoin, says the university professor. That is not what he is saying. He is saying Russia should do that would be an option, that is an option that he thinks makes sense. He is not saying Russia plans to do this. If he is, it is not included in the statements that they're quoting here. And once again, we get to the same old point where cryptojournalism shouldn't really be called journalism at this point, because there's so much conjecture, so much taken out of context or exaggerated. This headline is clickbait. Based on what the actual article says, this headline is not true. Now, he could have made another statement where he says Russia is planning to buy a lot of Bitcoin. But then that makes me wonder, why wasn't that quoted in this article? So yeah, take this as one professor giving his opinion, not as a reliable statement about Russia's plans. Just like Cardano, NEO also has a massive upgrade coming, so let's take a quick look here as well. NEO is not a cryptocurrency I talk about a lot, and honestly I don't know a lot about it. So I'm just giving you the facts from this article here, and unfortunately I won't be able to tell you guys much more about this. Every cryptocurrency project needs to constantly grow and evolve to remain relevant. That unwritten rule applies as much to Bitcoin as it does to any other alternate cryptocurrency on the market. The NEO developers are currently in the process of building an improved consensus algorithm. In doing so, the popular altcoin prepares for future developments. People who are familiar with the NEO cryptocurrency will be aware of its technical specifications. More specifically, the altcoin uses a consensus algorithm known as DBFT, or Delegated Byzantine Fault Tolerance. While there is nothing wrong with this technology on paper, it is far from a perfect solution. One could argue there's no such thing as a perfect consensus algorithm at this time, which means constant updates are even more crucial. Now, this is something I do understand, because the whole idea of a perfect consensus algorithm is very much an oxymoron. There cannot be a perfect consensus algorithm, because there is an ideological aspect to how you think consensus should be reached. And yeah, there will never be such a thing as a perfect one. There are only algorithms that are as good as they can possibly be for whichever ideology you have chosen to follow here. For those unfamiliar with DBFT, a brief explanation is warranted. This consensus algorithm primarily focuses on ensuring the majority of the NEO network is not made up of bad actors. As long as 2/3 of the network and nodes are genuine and honest, a consensus can be reached in the process. It is an elegant solution which shouldn't pose any real problems, at least on paper. In the real world, however, things can often turn out a bit differently. While corrupting over 1/3 of the NEO network may seem like a monumental challenge, nothing is impossible to achieve. And here, keep in mind here, we have just seen what appears to be a 51% attack on Ethereum Classic. That is way more than 1/3. We are at risk of something similar on, I believe it was Bitcoin Cash SV, where more than 50% of the computing power was held by one mining farm. We have Bitcoin mining centralized in the hands of just 4 or 5 mining farms or people. So on paper, it does seem unlikely that anyone would be able to get that much of the network in their hands, but it absolutely is possible in the real world. Delegated Byzantine Fault Tolerance offers a certain degree of protection against illicit actors. Once a consensus is reached on the network, it is impossible to achieve a different consensus later on. However, that doesn't mean no improvements can be made to further streamline and perfect this technology. And here we have a tweet from Eric Zhang, I think that is how you pronounce the last name. After half a year of development, the improved NEO consensus algorithm DBFT is about to be completed. DBFT will become the best consensus mechanism for blockchains. As he explained on Twitter, it would appear the NEO developers are close to achieving a major upgrade. An improved version of DBFT will be completed in the near future, albeit no specific timeline or ETA has been confirmed at this point. The main selling point of this new solution is how it has stricter finality. Additionally, NEO users will only need one confirmation to ensure transactions cannot be reversed or double spent. This is quite significant. On most blockchains, you require many more than one confirmations. This latter part is perhaps the most important development for most average Neo users. In the cryptocurrency world, most people are worried about their transactions being double spent. As such, they often prefer to wait for half a dozen network confirmations, if not more. In the case of Neo, that leads to a minor delay, yet it still remains time wasted nonetheless. Solving that problem by revamping the consensus algorithm is an innovative approach. According to some of the community members, this new development will usher in the era of Neo 3.0. Until an official release date for the new DBFT is announced, however, it is too early to draw any real conclusions. It is evident this change has a lot of merit if the developers can deliver on their promise. How this will impact the Neo price as a whole remains to be determined. So, both Cardano and Neo are actively pushing development, and both have a major upgrade coming in the next couple of weeks or months without a clear date until when this will happen. Now, like I said, I don't know all that much about Neo, so I cannot judge if this is a good upgrade, if this makes sense, if this is technologically the right thing to do. But I do like to see that development is clearly happening here, and at least based on this article, this sounds very promising for the cryptocurrency. And some bad news to finish this video, but I do feel we need to talk about stuff like this because a lot of people are in denial about the state of the crypto world right now, and we get way too many stories of this to continue lying to ourselves. Crypto exchange Shapeshift has announced a round of layoffs, citing a range of difficulties, including a tough market climate. In a blog post published on Tuesday, CEO Eric Voorhees wrote that the startup had laid off 37 employees, or a third of its staff. He described the process as a deep and painful reduction mirrored across many crypto companies in this latest bear market cycle. As Voorhees noted, Shapeshift isn't the only crypto startup to move to trim its workforce in recent weeks. As CoinDesk previously reported, Ethereum production studio Consensus announced a 13% staff cut in early December. More recently, chat startup Status and Bitcoin mining giant Bitmain confirmed that they were cutting staffers. In one of the most transparent testimonies of its kind to date, Voorhees detailed several problems that worked against Shapeshift heading into this decision. Besides the mounting legal concerns that have impeded the entire industry, Voorhees contended that the company grew too fast and spread out its efforts into too many product areas, such as CoinCap, its CoinMarketCap competitor, and KeepKey and acquisition. Additionally, the company's decision to begin doing Know Your Customer checks on customers caused a large loss in clients and users. Lastly, transactions in general dropped across the board, leading to a general drop in revenue, Voorhees wrote. Though Voorhees said the firm had hedged for such risks, it wasn't enough to allow the company to remain at its current staffing level. 2019 marked a rough year. While this new one starts upon some painful reorganization, we're encouraged and hopeful for 2019, he wrote. So we're seeing yet another well-known company in the crypto space, once again one that seems to have been at least slightly mismanaged, lose a significant part of its workers. Now, the good news here is that all the companies that we have seen do major cutbacks, they all seem to have been mismanaged to one degree or another. Like Voorhees openly admits here, they spread themselves too far, they tried to do too many things, they bought companies. This was not sustainable, and in a bear market is not possible. They didn't really plot ahead all that far. They didn't consider how bad the future could be. This is something similar that we've seen with Bitmain. They did too many things, they pushed too much money in there without having a consistent money flow that could make sure that they could continue operating even through worse times. But if this continues for much longer, even companies that are being run significantly better will feel the effects of this continued bear market. And a lot of people are talking about this as if it wasn't impacting the crypto space. It is. These big companies have to drop staff left and right. Now, just consider how many companies are not hiring new staff when they otherwise would be hiring new staff because of these same reasons. How many investments are not coming into the crypto space that would otherwise be coming into it? This continued bear market is very bad for development, for infrastructure. Now, we are still building at a ridiculous pace. There's still a lot happening. But some things are also dying down, some things are not going to their full potential, and we all have to hope for the market to recover at least a bit for all of this to be over. Even if we can just get to like a $7,000 or $8,000 Bitcoin, that should already have a significant impact on all of this. At the very least, mining should be consistently profitable again. This is just not the best state that the crypto world could be in. So far, we're mainly seeing companies that apparently weren't run very well deal with this in the worst possible ways. But if this continues for much longer, we will see the effects on other companies as well. And on this relatively sad note, I'm sorry about that, I'm going to end this video. I am planning to make another video later, but today I'm not going to make any promises like yesterday that I couldn't keep in the end. As always, thank you so much for watching. All the articles are linked in the description, as well as my social media pages and ways to support the channel. If you don't want to or can't send anything as far as monetary stuff goes, I would very much appreciate if you could just leave a like and leave a comment under this video. That really helps my channel be discovered. It's what gets new people to the channel, what makes me grow. And if my channel can grow, that means I can put more time and effort into making videos and everybody benefits. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back with you guys again either later today or tomorrow.